Hey everyone, this wrap up is going to be going up a little later than I wanted it to. So the start of my December was a bit busy with like the end of term and with just like life and cosplay stuff and whatnot. But I am finally filming it, finally getting around to uploading it. So this is going to be my November reading wrap up for 2024. I read 7 books this month and my average star rating was 4 stars, which is a pretty good average star rating. However, the 4 stars is mostly because I reread half of the Harry Potter series in November, which is ridiculous because I literally read 3 of the biggest books in the series in the span of 1 month. So like, really proud of myself for that because those are big chunkers. So without further ado, let's talk about the books I read. I started off reading Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Of course I love Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. It is a bit slow at parts, if I'm being honest. I just have to admit that. I've read the Order of the Phoenix like 3, maybe 4 times, but now I can't remember off the top of my head. And yeah, it's probably the slowest one in the series. However, it is really entertaining. There is a lot to it that is really interesting. And this is possibly the book with the most serious moments that you get in the entire series, and I love serious, so of course I love this book. I gave this one 5 stars, obviously. I haven't been marking any new characters this year, and I'm probably not going to be doing that for another couple of years. This year it was because I needed to buy more of those and I just like didn't get around to it, so I was like, I'll deal with that later. And the next few years, once I talk about my reading goals for 2025, you're going to be hearing why I'm probably not going to be marking new characters, but this is just the edition that I read when I was marking Percy, Lavender, Lee, Winky, and Susan, so that's what all of those flagets are for. Then I always do a little palette cleanser in between the Harry Potter books that I'm rereading. So the palette cleanser that I read after Order of the Phoenix was Kimetsu Academy. This is volume 3. Volume 4 is now out, so I need to get a hold of that, but I'm probably gonna wait until after Christmas to get a hold of it. So the story and art for this one is by Natsuki Hokami. I may have pronounced their name wrong. However, this was based on the original story by Koyoharu Gotage. So this is obviously the Demon Slayer School AU. This one was super fun. They're always super fun. They don't have much depth to them. That's the thing that I'm not the biggest fan of because I wish there was more depth to it. However, I still did enjoy this one quite a bit. So the fun thing about this one is that it explores the demons a lot, and I think having a modern school AU provides so much opportunity to explore the demons and their backstories in more depth. So I found that to be really interesting and fun to read about the demons. Here is a few of them and what they look like in this AU. So I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars, and I can't wait to dive into the 4th volume very soon. Then I reread Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So with this edition, the characters that I was marking in here is Michael, Hannah, Pansy, Gabrielle, and Poppy. So it was really hard for me to choose my favorite book for this month because I read 4 Harry Potter books, and I was almost gonna choose this one as my favorite, but then I settled on a different one. However, I do love this one so much. I love the scenes that we get of Voldemort's past in here. I think it provides so much perspective into who he is and into why he turned out the way that he did. Especially, I think a lot about the way that he was conceived. Like, that's something that I always think about when I reread this book, because I feel like he was conceived in a form of violence and manipulation, and because of that, that set him up immediately for failure. So I always find that really interesting to contemplate and think about. So this was a 5-star read for me, of course, because I love Harry Potter. Then the palette cleanser I read between Harry Potter books was Agretzko Meet Her Friends. So this is one of the books in the Agretzko like graphic novel series. I don't actually know how many are in this series anymore because Goodreads has been glitching and like it isn't listing all the ones that are technically in this series. So I've just gotten to the point where I'm like adding every single Agretzko book on Goodreads onto my want to read shelf so that eventually I can read all the ones in this series, but I don't know how many are in this series. I think there was like 4 or 5, maybe 6, and I don't know if there's more added because again, Goodreads really is not working well with summarizing this series, because you know, like when there's the book and then you click on the series, yeah, so a lot of times it will have, like for this one, it might have the series is listed as Agretzko Meet Her Friends, and then it will just include the like ones that are in here, and I'm like, no, I need to know all the collections that are in this series so that I can read them all. Anyways, there's 3 stories in most of these graphic novels, so these are the 3, and I'm going to briefly touch on them one by one. So I Cannot Compete With You, Protein is written by Kat Ferris, and I Cannot Compete With You, Protein was one that was fun to read, very lighthearted, not very deep. It's about the characters speculating about why they're yoga instructor is so odd. And then my favorite one in this collection was the second one, which is Fenico's Grand Plan, which was written by Ariel Jovianis. I don't know if I said that person's name right. So I didn't really like the art style in Fenico's Grand Plan. Let me show you an example really quick. So this is the art style for Fenico's Grand Plan, but generally the art style for all the other graphic novels are like this. So that comic had a different art style that I wasn't a fan of. However, I really liked Fenico's Grand Plan, and I really liked how the whole office came together to support Retsuko. Then the final one in here was The Gulf Between Us. I think The Gulf Between Us had a really good message at the end. However, it involves so much sexism and misogyny that you have to get through that I found it a bit difficult and tough to get through, and I felt like there should have been a way to portray that message that that story wanted to portray without the amount of like misogyny and sexism. So I gave I Cannot Compete With You Protein 3 stars, Fenico's Grand Plan 4 stars, and The Gulf Between Us 3 stars, which averages out to 3.33 stars. So that is my star rating for Agretzko Meet Her Friends. I did enjoy this one. I do recommend these graphic novels if you like Agretzko, but don't go into them expecting something super deep. They're very lighthearted. Occasionally there's serious themes, but generally they're just very lighthearted and just quick fun reads. Then this is the one that I decided would be my favorite one of this month because I just really enjoy rereading Deathly Hallows. I think there is so much rich detail in here, and I think there's so many things in this one that should have been included in the movies to make them make a lot more sense and more comprehensive. My phone just gave me the out of storage notification, so I gotta talk really fast. So yeah, I ended up giving this one 5 stars, of course, because it's my favorite one that I read this month, and it is one of my favorite ones in the Harry Potter series. Then I read this one, which is Before Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba. So these are like one-shots that Koyoharu Gotage wrote, and I was really excited to read this one. I really liked the premise of it. I just ended up being really disappointed by this one really quickly. So I'm gonna go over the stories that are in here super quickly to tell you what I think of each one. So the first one is Over Hunter x Hunter. I gave this one 3 stars. This one is the one that is the start to the Demon Slayer series. Like, it's where the author first started exploring the characters and the world that would eventually become Demon Slayer. So I found that to be really interesting. I really loved Lady Tamago. I liked the Demon Slayer in here and how he has a limb difference, like he's missing a limb. However, he is such like a strong, powerful Demon Slayer. I thought that was really cool. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I wasn't fond of like the art style. The art style definitely improved for the main series. And then the next one is the Manjushiro brothers. I may have mispronounced Manjushiro. So I liked the brothers' personalities in here, and I think that you can definitely speculate very easily about which characters they may have inspired in Demon Slayer. However, I wasn't really a big fan of the bug concept, like it wasn't for me, so that's why I gave this one 2 stars. Then A Man Called Ribs, which I also gave 2 stars. So I thought that this one was really creative, but I feel like none of the characters were really interesting to me, and I feel like it lacked a lot of depth, so the story just fell really flat for me. And then the final one in here is Zigzag from Haniwa. I'm not sure if I said that last word correctly. So the character Zigzag really annoyed me. It's like Gojo, but if Gojo was like a terrible human being. And I think that this was a solid base for a story. I think it would potentially make a good story if the main character were different and if there was a lot more added to the story. However, as this one shot stands, I ended up giving it 2 stars. It just wasn't super fond of it. So those star ratings average out to 2.25 stars. So that is what I rated this manga. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of it, and I had such high hopes for it. I'm not sure how many other one-shot collections I'm gonna read in manga since this one didn't really work for me, and I'm concerned that other one-shot collections may not work for me. And then the final one I'm not gonna talk about very much just because it's a reread and because I'm running so low on storage space, but it's Harry Potter and the Cursed Child Parts 1 and 2. This is the script, obviously, for Cursed Child. I am going to be seeing Cursed Child for the 2nd time next year, which I'm super excited about. I love Cursed Child. I don't care that there's inconsistencies and plot holes. It's just enjoyable, and whether or not I like a book just depends on whether or not I find it entertaining and enjoyable. So that's why I gave this one 5 stars. I love it so much. I can reread this one so much and never be bored of it. There's so much to it, and like, in a different life, if I wasn't disabled and I could actually handle like acting on a stage, I've always wanted to try that, then I would love to be in Cursed Child, but that's like never gonna happen because of my health issues. But yeah, I love Cursed Child a lot, and I'm so excited to see it for a second time next year. So those were all the books that I read in November. I hope all of you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. So I have now finished all my goals for the year, and I just have mainly one sort of unofficial goal left to do. I'd love to finish reading the book that I'm reading right now, which is Kingdom of Ash, before the end of the year, because I don't like when a book spans from like December to January when I'm reading it. So I'm hoping that I can finish that one in December, and then I'll probably just read a bunch of like shorter mangas and stuff just to fill the time until the new year. And then in the new year, I'm gonna have a bunch of new goals to start diving into, which is gonna be really fun and exciting.